1 Kings 5. King Hiram to Tyre sent his emissaries to Solomon. When he heard that he had set anointed king in his father's place, for Hiram had always been friends with David, Solomon sent his message to Hiram. So now your father David was not able to build a temple for the name of the Lord his God. This was because the warfare all around his util, the Lord put his enemies under his feet. The Lord my God has now given me rest on every side. There is no enemy or misfortune. So I plan to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, according to what the Lord promised my father David. I will put your son on your throne in your place, and he will build the temple for my name. Therefore, command that cedar from Lebanon be cut down for me. My servant will be with your salvation, and I will pay your servants' wages according to whatever you say. For you know that not a man among us knows how to cut timber, like the Sidonians. When Hiram heard Solomon's word, he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be the Lord today. He has given David a wise son to be over this great people. Then Hiram sent a reply to Solomon, saying, I have heard your message. I will do everything you want regarding the cedar and cypress timber. My servant will bring the logs down from Lebanon to the sea and will make them into rafts to go by sea to place you indicate. I will break them apart there, and you can take them away. You then can meet my needs by providing my household with food. So Hiram provided Solomon with all the cedar and the cypress timber he wanted, and Solomon provided Hiram with 120,000 bushels of wheat as food for his household, and 120,000 gallons of oil from crushed olives. Solomon did this for Hiram year after year. The Lord gave Solomon wisdom as he had provided him. There was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and two of them made a treaty. The king Solomon drafted forced laborers from all Israel. The labor force numbered 30,000 men. He sent 10,000 to Lebanon each month in shift. 1 month they were in Lebanon, 2 months they were at home. Adoniram was in charge of the forced labor. Solomon had 70,000 porters and 80,000 stonecutters in the mountains, not including his 3,300 deputed in the charge of the work. They supervised the people doing the work. The king commanded them to quarry large, costly stones and lay the foundation of the temple with the dressed stones. So Solomon's builder and Hiram's builders, along with Gebalites, quarried the stone and repaired the timber and stone for the temple's construction. 1 Kings 6. Solomon began to build the temple of the Lord in the 480 years after the Israelites came out of the land of Egypt. In the 40th year of his reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the second month, the temple that King Solomon built for the Lord was 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 45 feet high. The portico in front of the temple sanctuary was 30 feet long, extending across the temple's width and the 15 feet deep in the front of the temple. He also made windows with beveled frames for the temple. He then built a chambered structure along the temple wall, interclining the wall of the temple. That is the sanctuary and the inner sanctuary. And he made side chamber all around. The lowest chamber was 7.5 feet wide. The middle was 9 feet wide, and the third was 10.5 feet wide. He also provided offset ledges for the temple all around the outside, so that nothing would be inserted into the temple walls. The temple's construction used finished stones cut at the quarry, so that no hammer, chisel, or any iron tool was heard in the temple while it was being built. The door for the lowest side chamber was on the right side of the temple. They went up a stairway of the middle chamber, and from the middle of the third to the third. When he finished building the temple, he paneled it with boards and planks of cedar. He built the chamber along the entire temple, joined to the temple with cedar beams. Each story was 7.5 feet high. The word of the Lord came to Solomon: "As for this temple you're building, if you walk at my statutes, observe my ordinances, and keep all my commands by walking in them, I will fulfill my promise to you, which I made to your father David. I will dwell among the Israelites and not abandon my people Israel." When Solomon finished building the temple, he paneled the interior temple wall with cedar boards. From the temple floor to the surface of the ceiling, he overlaid, and the interior with wood. He also overlaid the floor with cypress boards. Then he leaned 30 feet of the rear of the temple with cedar boards from the door to the surface of the ceiling. And he built the interior as inner sanctuary, the most holy place. The temple that is the sanctuary in front of the most holy place was 60 feet long. The cedar paneling inside the temple was carved with ornamental ground and flower blossoms. Everything was cedar, not stone could be seen. Not a stone could be seen. He prepared the inner sanctuary inside the temple to put the Ark of the Lord's Covenant there. The interior of the sanctuary was 30 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 30 feet high. He overlaid it with pure gold. He also overlaid the cedar alt. Next, Solomon overlaid the interior of the temple with pure gold and hung gold chains across the front of the inner sanctuary and overlaid it with gold. So he added the gold overlay to the interior temple until everything was completely finished. including the entire altar that belongs to the inner sanctuary. In the inner sanctuary, he made 2 cherubims, 15 feet high, out of the olive wood. One wing of the first cherub was 7.5 feet long, and the other wing was 7.5 feet long. The wingspan was 15 feet from tip to tip. The second cherub was also was 15 feet, but both cherubim had the same size and shape. The first cherubim height was 15 feet, and so was the second cherub's. Then he put the cherubim inside the inner temple. Since their wings were spread out, the first ones touched one half, while the other cherub wing touched the other wall. In the middle of the temple, their wings were touching wing to wing. He also overlaid the cherubim with gold. He carved all surrounding temple walls with carved engravings, cherubim, palm trees, and flower blossoms. In the inner and outer sanctuaries, he overlaid the temple floor with gold in both the inner and the outer sanctuary. For the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made olive wood doors. The pillars of the doors were posts were 5-sided. The 2 doors were made of olive wood. He carved cherubim, palm trees, and flower blossom on them, and overlaid them with gold, hammering gold over the cherubim and palm trees. In the same way, he made 4-side olive wood doorposts for the sanctuary entrance. The 2 doors were made of cypress wood. The first door had 2 folding side, and the second door had 2 folding panels. He carved cherubim, palm trees, and flower blossoms on them, and overlaid them with gold, and applied evenly over the carving. He pulled the inner courtyard with the 3 rows of dressed stone and a row of trimmed cedar beams. The foundation of the Lord's temple was laid in Solomon's fourth year, in the month of Ziv. In his 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the highest month, the temple was completed in every detail and according to every specification. So he built it in 7 years.
1 Kings 7. Solomon completed his palace complex after 13 years of construction. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon. It was 150 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet on height, on 4 rows of cedar pillars, with cedar beams on the top of the pillar. It was paneled above with cedar at the top of the chambers that rested on 45 pillars, 15 per row. There were 3 rows of window frames facing each other in 3 tiers. All the doors and doorstops had rectangular frames, the opening facing each other in 3 tiers. He made the hall of pillars 75 feet long and 45 feet wide. A portico was in front of the pillars, and a canopy with pillars was in front of them. He made the hall of the throne where he would judge, the hall of judgment. It was paneled with cedar from the floor to the rafters. Solomon's own palace were where he would live, in the other courtyard behind the hall, was of similar construction, and he made a house like this hall of Pharaoh's daughter, his wife. All of these buildings were of costly stones, cut to size and sawn with saws in the inner and outer surface, from foundation to coping, and from the outside to the great courtyard. The foundation was made of large costly stones, 12 and 15 feet long. Above were also costly stones cut to size, as well as cedar wood, around the great courtyard, as well as the inner courtyard of the Lord's temple. And the portico of the temple were 3 rows of dressed stones and a row of trimmed cedar beams. King Solomon had Hiram brought from Tyre. He was a Winson's son from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a bronze craftsman. Hiram had great skill, understanding, and knowledge to do every kind of bronze work. So he came to King Solomon and carried out all his work. He cast 2 bronze pillars, each 27 feet high and 17 feet in circumference. He also made 2 pillars of cast bronze to set on top of pillars. 7.5 feet was the height of the first capital, and 7.5 was also the height of the second capital. The capitals on top of the pillar had gratings on light wood, wares made of chain work, 7 for the first capital and 7 for the second. He made the pillars with 2 encircling rows of pomegranates on the top, on the one grating to cover the capital on top. He did the same for the second capital, and the capitals on top of the pillar in the portico were shaped like lilies, 6 feet high. The capitals on the 2 pillars were also immediately above the rounded surface, next to the grating, and 200 pomegranates were in rows, encircling each capital. He set up the pillars of the portico of the sanctuary. He set up the right pillar and named it Jacin. Then he set up the left pillar and named it Boaz. The tops of the pillar were shaped like lilies. The tops of the pillars were shaped like lilies. Then he worked on the pillars. The work on the pillars were completed. He made the cast metal basin 15 feet from brim to brim, perfectly round. It was 7.5 feet high and 45 feet in circumference. Ornamental growers encircled in it below the brim, 10 every half yard, completely encircling the basin. The cords were casting in 2 rows where the basin was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, 3 facing east. The basin was on the top of them, and all their headquarters were toward the center. The basin was 3 inches thick, and its rim was fashioned like the brim of a cup or of a lily blossom. It held 11,000 gallons. Then he made 10 bronze water carts. Each water cart was 6 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 4.5 feet high. This was the design of the carts. They had frames. The frames were between the cross pieces. And on the frames between the cross pieces were lions, oxen, and cherubim. On the cross pieces there was a pedestal above, and below the lion and oxen were works of hanging work. Each cart had 4 bronze wheels with bronze axles. Underneath the 4 corners of the basin were cast supports, each next to a wreath. And the water carts opening inside the crown on top was 18-inch wide. The opening was round, made as a pedestal 27 inches wide. On it were carvings, but their frames were square, not round. There were 4 wheels under the frames, and the wheel axle were part of the water cart. Each wheel was 27 inches tall. The wheels' design was similar to the chariot wheels. Their axles, rims, spokes, and hubs were all of cast metal. 4 supports were at 4 corners of each water cart. Each support was one piece with the water cart. At the top of the cart was a band 9 inches high encircling it. Also, at the top of the cart, its braces and its frame were one piece with it. He engraved cherubim, lions, and palm trees on the plates of its braces and on its frames, wherever each had space, with encircling wheels. In this way, he made the 10 water carts using the same casting dimensions and shape for all of them. Then he made 10 bronze basins. Each basin held 220 gallons and each was 6 feet wide. 1 basin for each of the 10 water carts. He set 5 water carts on the right side of the temple and 5 on the left side. He put the basin near the right side of the temple towards the southeast. Then Riemann made the basins, the shovels, and the sprinkling basins. So Hiram finished all the work that he was doing for King Solomon on the Lord's temple. 2 pillars, bowls for the capitals that were on top of the 2 pillars, the 2 gratings for covering, both bowls of the capitals that were on top of the pillars, the 400 pomegranate for the 2 gratings, 2 rows of pomegranate for each, gratings covering both capital bowls on top of the pillars, the 10 water cart, the 10 basin on the water cart, the basin, the 12 oxen underneath the basin, and the pots, shovels, and sprinkling basin. All the utensils that Hiram made for King Solomon and the Lord's temple were made of burnished bronze. The king had them cast in clay molds in the Jordan Valley between Sukkot and Zarephath. Solomon left all the utensils unwelded because there were so many. The weight of the bronze was not determined. Solomon also made all the equipment in the Lord's temple. the gold altar, the gold table that the bread of the presence was placed on, the pure gold lampstands in front of the inner sanctuary, 5 on the right, 5 on the left, the gold flower lamps and tongues, the pure gold ceremonial bowls, wick trimmers, sprinkling basin ladles, the fire pans, and the gold hinges for the door of the inner temple. That is the most holy place. And for the door of the temple sanctuary, for all the work King Solomon did in the Lord's temple was completed. Then Solomon brought in the consecrated things of his father David, the silver, the gold, and the utensils, and put them in the treasuries of the Lord's temple.